How's it going, Talk Forest TV? My name is Jack and welcome to my preview for the Brentford vs Nottingham Forest game, the Sky Sports lunchtime kickoff at the Brentford Community Stadium, I think it's called. It's something like that. It used to be obviously Griffin Park and then they moved out, which is a bit of a shame. It was such a nice ground. You know, it was one of those old school grounds you associate them with a bit like Craven Cottage, you know, one of those old school grounds which, you know, have been around for a while, just add a little bit of character to the football, you know, but they had to move on, and that's what they did. But yeah, last game for them was a 2-0 bottle job, if you will. They were 2-0 up against Derby, cruising, and then they ended up drawing 2-2 with 2 late goals for Derby. So hopefully if something like that can happen for us, then they will definitely need them to bottle it, because I think it's going to be a very, very difficult game. Last time we did play them at the City Ground was in December, and it was one of the worst performances I think I've ever seen from Forest, especially this season anyway. Ivan Toney rang rings around us, and some of the goalkeeping and the defending in that game was an absolute disgrace. It was so bad, but I think we've definitely been better since then. After that game, we went on a nice little bit of a run, so hopefully we can rekindle a little bit of hope in the season after this game. Maybe it might be the kick up the backside that we really have been needed recently. I think in the last couple of games have not been good enough. Like Darren Huckabee was saying it the most on Twitter, like his dog was laid down on the floor asleep and he said he had more movement than the Forest team against Norwich, you know. Yeah, it wasn't good. To be fair though, Norwich were a fantastic side, and I think it's more of a sort of compliment to them than a discredit to us. Discredit, that's not the right word. Then a diss to us, I guess you could say, because they are just so good. In this one, though, it's not going to be easy. Like I say, Ivan Toney is a wonderful striker. He's one of the best strikers in the league, and Brentford have got such a knack of just picking players from out of nowhere. Like you look at Ben Rama, came from absolutely nowhere, and look how good he is now, bossing it in the Premier League for West Ham. You know, they had Neil Maupay and obviously Watkins, who's just left to go to Aston Villa. You know, they had so many good players that they develop, they nurture, they bring from the cold, and you know, then they become Premier League stars or stars in other leagues. You know, so I think I look at that and I think for Forest, what have we got? Like, we've got no sort of thought of a philosophy or anything like that. I put this out on my Twitter saying something like, you look at other clubs and you look at the likes of Norwich, the way that they kept hold of Fark, the way that they bring players in, like they sold one of their best players in Jamal Lewis and brought in this guy from Greece on loan who no one has ever heard of, and he's absolutely superb. You know, they managed to keep hold of players like Buendia, Pukki, Cantwell, because they know, you know, Max Aarons, because they know what this club can offer them. They know how this club can make them the better player than it would be if they would go and play like at Bayern Munich, like Max Aarons could have done, and just be sat on the bench. You know, look at our best players, they always get sold. So I think if we can look at, you know, if we can get a philosophy that the manager wants to back the boards, willing to back the players, want to stay and see out, the fans can have something to really get behind, then it could be a lot more of an optimistic place to be at the City Ground. But unfortunately it doesn't look like we've got that. Hopefully though, you know, I believe Houghton has got sort of a plan he wants to do. Whether he'll get backed with it, who knows? Whether it'll work again, who knows? We need to give him time, I think. Like, you look at Burnley, they got relegated under Dyche and kept all of them. They came back up and they've not been down since. You look at Norwich, they had Daniel Farke, got them up, they came straight back down, kept hold of him, and he's doing an absolutely superb job for them, and they're easily going to walk straight back to the Premiership. So I think if we can keep hold of our manager like we've been crying out for so long, and he has a plan and a path to glory that we can get behind, then it'll be much better. But yeah, I'm waffling, that's not really anything to do with the game, just something I wanted to get off my chest. But yeah, hopefully Samba will be back for this one. I don't know whether he will. I don't think John Smith really had a bad game, if I'm honest. I think he had a pretty decent game, made a crucial save from McLean at 2-0. Well, crucial in terms of keeping the score down. And you know, he gets a lot of stick, but I think in that game against Norwich, the 2 goals he could do nothing about, and I think overall, I think he actually had a pretty decent game, if I'm honest. So if Samba's out, I won't be too disheartened. Obviously, I want Samba back because I think he's exceptional. He's been one of our best players this season, and I wouldn't be surprised if either he or Joe Worrell get Player of the Season. two players who are both out at the minute, who we're missing. Hopefully they can both be back for the Brentford game. I'm not really sure about the injury update around the club or how their fitness is going. If they can both be back, then that'll really give us a better opportunity than what we could have without them. But I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what sort of things happen, how it pans out. Right back for me, I'd say Cyrus Christie. I think he's really sort of come on recently. He looked okay, to be honest, against Norwich. Wasn't obviously great. No one was great. But he was alright. He was someone who you can't really put too much of the blame onto. There's been one or two games, especially that Swansea game, where he was at fault, but definitely in this run that Houghton put together, he's been so much better, and I think he's been one of our better players. Centre-backs, I have a feeling it'll be McKenna and Figueiredo again, but if Worrell's back, then it'll be probably McKenna and Worrell. I think is our strongest two centre-backs, and I'll definitely play them. Left-back, for me, it has to be Ribeiro. Bond's not a bad player, but I think Ribeiro offers that energy, that tireless running that maybe the older engine of Gaetan Bong might not be able to produce. So I think that'll be quite important up against some of the players that they've got, Mbuemo, Tony pulling out wide. There's another guy, I can't remember his name. Something like Godos or something like that. Gudos, I can't quite remember off the top of my head. But yeah, they've got a very exciting front three, Brentford. So we need someone with a lot of energy and a lot of, I guess you could say, pace to sort of deal with them. The holding midfielders, for me, I'm going to say, I think he might go with Yates and Garner. Yates a bit more defensive, a bit more combative than a Cafu. Cafu might play a bit in front of them instead of Krovinovic. I'm not really sure what's going on with Krovinovic recently, but I've noticed Houghton's taken him off a bit, where before he was leaving him on the full 90. So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. The two wingers for me, I'd love to see Alex Myton start. Just been called up for the under-19 England squad, so fair play to him. Congratulations for that. And I just think he offers you something. That raw pace, that raw just... The ability to get the ball and run at someone without any fear of what might happen. You look at players, and I know I mentioned this, I bang on about this in almost every video I do after Forest lose a game. You see players like Graben, and as much as I love the guy, and as much as I don't think he deserves the stick that he's getting... He does seem to be a bit nervous on the ball sometimes. His decision making's skewed by trying not to make a mistake. And with Alex Myton, I don't think that'll happen. He's someone who's a bit more naive, he wants to do stuff to show why he should be in the side, instead of wanting to not make an error. Sorry about that. Not wanting to make an error to get out of the side. So I think, we need to play him probably on the left. On the right, if Knockhart's fit, we'll go with Knockhart. If he's not, I'd probably say... Probably Amiobi, but I'd like to see Amiobi be a little bit less selfish. He likes to get the ball and take shots from bizarre angles and quite a long way out. So if he can work on that side of his game, then he could be really vital in this game. And then up front for me, I want to see Graben do much better. I don't think he deserves the hate he's getting. But again, like I said before, in the last couple of games, I think we need to start Taylor from the off, because I think he offers you something different than coming off the bench when he has limited time, because he's a player who is quite a confidence player, and if the team's feeling up for the game, he'll be up for it. If he comes on and the team's struggling, he'll struggle and he'll get a bit moany and whingy and fall on the floor a bit. So I think if he can start from the beginning, he could offer something a little bit different and something a little bit more than he can do off the bench. In terms of the scoreline, pardon me, I think it could be 2-0 Brentford. I think it could be quite a decent win for them, like we saw with Norwich. But I think if I go... Pardon me, if things go the way I know they can do, if we play our best football, we could sneak a 1-0. Brentford are a team who, even though they're doing well, they're not susceptible to... I can't think of what the word is. They're not afraid to bottle it, basically is what I'm trying to say. They make a meal of trying to get promoted. You look at last season, we bottled it, so did they to an extent. So I think if we can unsettle them and make them feel a bit nervous, we could maybe get a 1-0, sort of like a grinding out victory. But yeah, I think it's going to be a really difficult game. If we do go 1-0 and the goal scorer, I'll say Lyle Taylor if he starts, like I said. So yeah, if you did enjoy, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and subscribe to down to other channels, which are probably down in the description, or somewhere on the channel if they're not down there already. So yeah, if you did enjoy, smash the like button, and come on, you Reds.